take $1,000 in cash or one Bitcoin?
I honestly could not tell you how Bitcoin works. So if you gave me a Bitcoin, I probably wouldn't do anything with it. So I'd probably take the cash.
Down in the dumps, lost your shirt. What's going on, boys?
Hey, how you doing? Feel comfortably numb.
I feel nothing.
There are different phases to a price cycle. We're in the accumulation phase. Accumulation sounds great. Accumulation means, okay, I'm going to buy Bitcoin, whatever. But what people fail to realize is accumulation also means chop. And when you have chop inside of crypto, the chop is big swings. So I'm not worried. I'm still net long. I'm still net very long.
Back a very, very, very long way.
My hodl position and my portfolio accumulation position is growing. I just keep adding. I'm not worried at all. I'm not worried at all.
Feeling, Jesse?
I mean, I think anyone who's in the space agrees that we're all generally on the same page that it's, you know, one to 2 years, everyone's going to be laughing. I heard someone mention something around 100K by the halving, but it's always kind of a big fat dump, and we haven't even dumped that hard yet.
A viewer question just came in.
Yeah.
Andrea wants to know when we're hitting 40K, Baloo, according to the charts. And I did say to this particular viewer, you're highly unlikely to answer that. But, you know, based on Jesse's analysis there of someone of some note talking 100K by the halving, I mean, are there charts that show a time frame around these halving events that you would say are relevant?
Typically, we rally into a halving. Outside of that, as far as price levels and timing, first of all, timing is very, very hard to quantify, especially if you're the type of person who's looking at this day to day. You're not going to get the day to day. If you look at this quarter to quarter or year to year, you're going to have a much better bias as far as direction. I think 40K is plausible up to the halving, but I don't see an all-time high break until after the halving, like we've seen in previous cycles.
One of the major headlines at the moment is about these ETH futures. What are futures, and are there BTC futures already? Can you explain that a bit?
Futures are basically an agreement between two peers where one person is betting on the price to go down and one person is betting on the price to go up. Effectively, it's just a contract between two people who are betting on the future price of an asset. We do have Bitcoin futures, the CME futures on Bitcoin. When those went live, it was the top of the 2017 run.
So what happened when the BTC futures were approved?
Well, we had a huge extended bull market. We went up only for like 9 months. And then Wall Street was able to short a market that was out of hand. So when the CME futures launched on Bitcoin, there was no chart that was saying now is a good time to buy. Everything was saying now is a good time to short. And Wall Street, being, you know, a little bit more advanced and a little bit more sophisticated, went in and shorted the market.
Clever girl.
Context is everything. The context of the Bitcoin futures being released was a hot, frothy, up-only market where there was extreme euphoria, and smart money, as they always do, looks for bullish events to offload shares. So the herd was very excited about Bitcoin futures, and this created a lot of buy-side liquidity. If you're a whale looking to offload, you need buy-side liquidity. So they were able to sell into the hands of these people that were over exuberant and expecting much higher prices as a result of the CME futures launch. And when that didn't happen, supply dynamics took over and we saw a price decline as people bailed on their positions. Now, if we're getting ETH futures, I could see the opposite happening, because right now nobody cares about crypto. It's like the least popular topic.
Hi to the 5 people that are still interested in crypto. Well done.
Exactly. It's so niche and not popular. It's not sexy. Nobody cares. And stocks have been rallying, right? So there's been even less incentive to be in the crypto space because people were making money on the stock side. So with these futures, you know, it's kind of a non-event. You have liquidity coming in with smart money, and that's it. It's really, you just need to trade with smart money. What's smart money doing? They're buying. They're acquiring assets. They're buying Bitcoin. They're buying ETH. If you want to be trading with smart money, which is typically the right side of the trade, then you need to be buying Bitcoin. You need to be buying ETH. It's really that simple. I think the event is secondary to the fundamentals of supply and demand.
We're talking about futures and so forth here. It's, you know, it's become a financial tool. Everyone's excited about BlackRock's ETF. Bitcoin's going to moon. But have we really lost sight of what Bitcoin is, do you think? Is there a Bitcoin community anymore?
I think personally that the reason that you saw so much more of that in the beginning was because that's when the truly, involved people, the people who truly understand the technology, who understand the fundamentals, all of that, that's when they were the main population of the community. Then as the years go by, you've got people's grandmother, you've got random kids, you've got people trying to make money, you've got people just throwing money at it for a punt. None of those people necessarily have the understanding like you do, or the people that were early on in the Bitcoin community. But I don't think that number of people that you're referring to has lessened. I think that number has grown.
The community's not gone. It's just gotten quiet. And part of the reason for that, like Jesse's alluded to, is it's not a sexy story. Like, we have a different crowd here. A majority of the people that came in from the last cycle, they came from, COVID hit, give me a stimulus check. How can I make some money? How can I become a trader? How can I do this? How can I do that? They don't come from that grassroots foundation of the money is broken. How do we fix it? So, and this whole meme, this whole like counterculture that's developed of the toxic Bitcoin maximalist, which is just a guy who says you're getting scammed. You should just be buying Bitcoin. You can't win with anybody who takes the other side. That just doesn't matter what you say. You're wrong. You don't see it. You're a dinosaur. You're using an old chain. It has no value. This chain does this, that, and the other at this throughput. And it's just, nobody wants to hear it. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And I think what's happened in the world is people are too comfortable. People are too comfortable. They don't actually have these problems. And they came into this space wanting to make money and nothing else. They didn't come into this space to try and fix money. They came in here to try and make multiples.
The beauty of Bitcoin is it's this clunky bit of tech that just marches on and on and on. If you're going to move money around, if I'm going to flick blue, $10, I'm going to use a stable coin. I'm not going to use Bitcoin right now to do that. Bitcoin's this clunky.
I don't take stable coins.
I'd say you're a Bitcoin maximalist clearly now. Has that been a change in thinking recently for you?
It's been an ebb and flow. It's been an ebb and flow. My first exposure to the cryptocurrency market was through Bitcoin. I studied extensively what made Bitcoin special. Then I deviated a little bit once, I learned a little bit more about Ethereum and smart contracts. And now I'm seeing, Ethereum go to proof of stake. I think that proof of stake is a fundamentally flawed model. And I think that, with that and other layers being built on top of Bitcoin that can serve the purpose of a smart contract, I'm just back to Bitcoin. I'm a trader too, so I'll dabble in shit coins, but I have no faith in any of them, which for me helps me as a trader. Like, why do you say you
think Ethereum is a fundamentally flawed model? I mean, I put it this way: I moved some money around yesterday. I used the Ethereum network. It was instant. The person that I sent it to got it in seconds. It's a stable coin.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with
a major innovation.
With transactions. It has everything to do with the centralization of power and the centralization of the money. It's a system where those who are wealthiest in the system continue to pull wealth from those below it. When you have, with Bitcoin, you have users making transactions, and you have miners creating blocks, and they need to use energy. It's a fair system. You have each person needing to invest money in order to do something. Whether you want to transact, you got to pay a miner. If you want to be a miner, you got to, you got to get cheap power, and you got to supply the network. So it's an even system. Whereas with Ethereum, If you use the Ethereum network, you are creating more Ethereum for the people who aren't using the Ethereum network. If you have a ton of ETH and you run a validator node, all of the transaction volume that would have otherwise gone to a miner that needs to pay for electricity is now going to an Ethereum validator that doesn't have an expensive power bill. A lot of people look at Bitcoin as like, oh, why would you want Bitcoin? The miners keep dumping on you. No, the miners are providing a service. They are distributing the coins. They are, the network effect that's getting Bitcoin into the hands of other people. Whereas with Ethereum, if you run an ETH node, or let's say 10 of them, the money just collects and you don't need to do anything. And it just keeps concentrating and making you more and more powerful and opening up more and more nodes. And then eventually you just have this massive centralization of power. And that's fiat. We already have that. That's what we're fighting. So I want a more distributed, fair, and neutral
Yeah, but
system.
to have an Ethereum node, you need 32 Ethereum.
Yeah.
For anyone that doesn't understand what we're talking about, that means you're effectively, it's the equivalent of you sort of being a Bitcoin miner in a way, would be the way I would describe that.
Except you don't have a power bill.
Yeah.
You are not incentivized to sell the Ethereum. You are incentivized
that's correct.
to hoard Ethereum.
Yeah. So from a price point of view, I personally don't see something like Ethereum pulling back too much more, because you're looking at a 30-day waiting period to be an Ethereum node right now. You've got 32 Ethereum, you've got to queue up to get that node working. To sell your Ethereum, you can do that instantly in a day. So that metric alone tells me that there's upward pressure on that particular commodity. And I think it's an important commodity, but yeah, I will agree with you that Bitcoin is so much more important. I think that's the thing that goes down in history. And as future generations laugh at the absolute mess that we're making of the planet at the moment, this, to me, possibly will be one of the biggest things that historians look back on and go, wow.
I think so too.
It's pretty amazing.
I think the Bitcoin network and mining in particular are going to revolutionize the energy grid.
Yeah.
Absolutely revolutionize it. And that's not a claim that ETH can take. ETH is just nodes that run on AWS, Amazon Web Services, and they just don't produce anything for the world. Whereas Bitcoin mining, you're the best consumer of electricity. You can now unlock other places to get clean energy that you would never set up a power plant before, because there was no people to use the power. It's going to completely revolutionize the energy industry, in my opinion, and create green incentives, and it'll be the fastest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm actually talking to some Bitcoin mining companies at the moment on that front, and that's where typically a lot of institutional money has come into the Bitcoin space via mining operations, because they understand the mathematical equation. It's easier for them to.
They understand equity. They want to own a company. They understand equity. They want to. Yeah.
But unfortunately, the tragedy here, and it has always felt like banging, for me personally, like banging my head on the wall, was that your average person has really still not grasped why in 50 years and 100 years and 1,000 years, people will either potentially actually be using Bitcoin as the world's monetary system, at a minimum, looking at this time in financial history and going, wow, that was incredibly significant. But the way we're heading, in my opinion, is that it will be a institutional run platform.
Monopoly.
Yeah. I think the average punter is really missed the point. I guess that's what we're doing today, is having a bit of a chat about that and trying to.
But over the long run, because miners have to sell their Bitcoin, even when institutions grab a lot, if they're not mining themselves, there's still a lot of sats going to the people. It's not all collecting in the hands of the wealthy. You still have appropriate distribution to the people. So, the institutions are always going to try and do something to make a buck.
a big thing, honestly, is gaining trust.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can train a bunch of brainwashed zombies to stop obeying the US dollar like it's some sort of religious paper and to move on to this thing called Bitcoin that their elected god leader tells them is bad. It's like the trust part. It's like how do you get people to trust you and trust it and trust that the system that they're in isn't trustworthy?
It's a very, very valid point, and it's something that I take a pessimistic stance on. Things need to get bad. Fiat is not a system that's built on sustainability. We keep kicking the can down the road. Every year, governments steal more and more money from its citizens. Eventually, you can only brainwash them so much where they realize, like, I can't eat anymore. I can't do anything anymore. And it's your fucking fault. And these other countries switched. They saw it. And now those countries are prospering. So we want Bitcoin. Things need to get tough. Things are not tough. People live very easy lives. The old saying, calm seas make shitty sailors, or whatever the fucking saying is. But like, times are too easy and people are complacent. And it's only a matter of time before the governments fuck up. And then that's when the value is revealed. And I think once it's revealed, it will be revealed quite quickly, but it is going to take some sort of event.
Have any of you looked at Argentina's presidential candidate, Javier Milei?
I've seen some Twitter rumblings, but I didn't dive into it too deep.
According to a trusted good friend of mine from Argentina, she thinks he is a imbecile, and yet he is a big time advocate for cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. And right then and there, I was like, well, imbecile or not, he's got my interest. But he's kind of like the Trump of Argentina. He's like this loud, kind of cocky, boisterous, slightly doofy guy. I always wonder, why is it that the guys that they have so many qualities of someone that we want, right? Someone who's going to come in, shake up the system. Why do they have to be like so socially inept?
It's funny you bring that up, because when I first got into the space in 2016, it was actually a friend of mine running a fund in Switzerland. And, we were talking about what, I asked him, I'm like, what is Bitcoin? He's like, well, we're primarily working with people looking to get their money out of Argentina. Wealthy farmers, etc., who had just had a guts full of inept politicians and, rampant inflation. So, you've had countries all over the world that use the US dollar because of inept politicians and local currencies just getting destroyed, hyperinflated. And Argentina is just always seems to have had that problem. And that's, when I was learning about Bitcoin, that was such a big lesson for me, because this guy really clearly explained to me, well, you can walk through the airport with all your wealth in your head, obviously sort of, getting out of your local currency and into Bitcoin was what he was helping people do. But that whole sort of thing of, hang on a minute, you could just jump on a plane, leave Argentina, move wherever else, and then bang, you've got your Bitcoin. Whereas if you attempted to do that with your local currency or even the US dollar, it's just not possible. I think you're, what is it, over 10,000?
10 grand.
Yeah.
10 grand needs to be declared.
Yeah. So in other words, your value, and this is what I was talking about before, your value you control, you don't. I mean, you're not even allowed to get on a plane with all of your own money. You're just not legally, which is kind of
and this brings
stupid,
up
right?
a very interesting dynamic to the world that I don't expect to see in my lifetime. But, if Bitcoin is successful, Bitcoin is a global currency that can be taken anywhere on the globe. Now, if it becomes a global currency and local jurisdictions begin to tax in Bitcoin, well, now you have something very interesting happening, because citizens can leave the country with every single fucking tax dollar. And this is going to really shape incentives globally, because right now governments are used to controlling people. You earn in this currency, We tax this currency, you live in this country, and we're going to tax the shit out of you. When you flip it to having a global currency and having the ability to take everything that you own in that country and go to a different country and make that country more wealthy, well, now you've flipped the incentives. And now governments are going to be in competition with one another in order to compete for citizens. So instead of overtaxing, they're going to undertax, and it's a race to the bottom. And you create different incentives where, you know, hey, come over here, we do this, or we tax less, or we give this incentive for this. And like now the governments are in competition and they truly work for you as they're supposed to do. They're supposed to work for you. So it's going to be fun, especially if we see any glimmer of that in our lifetime. But, you know, we're talking about a big fundamental shift of how the planet operates. So I'm not expecting it anytime soon.
We'll see.
We'll see.
It's sad in many ways that we're touching upon these different use cases for Bitcoin. And, you know, it almost feels like, you know, it's that Armageddon asset play. So, yeah, 20 seconds of describing Bitcoin to people at the moment is almost impossible. But yeah, I mean, the Armageddon, you know, throw the word Armageddon asset in there. It's horrible to say that, but I do think
it's also a prosperity asset. It's a completely neutral asset. You can look at it from a doom and gloom point of view, or you can look at it from a hopeful point of view. I look at Bitcoin from a hopeful point of view. If I don't like something, I don't need to put up with it because I'm not in a system where I can be controlled.
Yeah.
If I don't like it, I'm going to leave. And that gives me hope. Yeah, at least hope for myself. And the fact that, you know, people, you know, let's say, oh, you're not allowed to do this. You can't go there. We're shutting down banks. And like it already happened in Russia. The Visa cut off Russia. So all the Russian bank cards didn't work. Like that would be devastating if we didn't have Bitcoin. But we do have Bitcoin. So we have the ability to always interact on this earth. And I think adoption is getting more. We're seeing more and more people accept this currency. So I have hope. I do agree with you that a lot of the more major fundamental shifts would happen in the context of unpleasantness. I'm not going to go as far as say Armageddon, but, you know, unpleasantness. But yeah, Bitcoin to me is hope, and it's something that is valuable that people should, if they don't understand what I'm saying, or if they think I'm fucking crazy, go ahead and think I'm crazy, but think I'm crazy after you do your research and go check it out for yourself and try to fully understand it before you pass too much judgment, because it is fundamentally one of the most impressive and potentially profound inventions since the newspaper.
Armageddon or hope?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, really well said, by the way, Blue.
Yeah, why don't we wrap it on that? Because that was good.
Yeah, agree. Armageddon hope.
Armageddon or
Bitcoin.
hope? Tune in next time.
Yeah.
Cheers, everyone.